I was trying to close music and closed Streamlabs. So it's kind of the day that I'm having today. Welcome to the stream. We're going to build out, last time we talked, more than a week ago now. Hey, Kevin, how are you? Welcome. Starting off with some technical glitches. Payman, welcome. Payman, I'm taking your suggestion from the last time we all got together a couple weeks ago. I took a break last week. I was just kind of feeling a little worn out last week. I read this interesting article, which I think maybe applies to a lot of us right now. It was around being, and I'm paraphrasing here a bit, so I'm probably going to wreck this quite well. But they were talking about this article, the idea of depletion, and people are depleted right now because of, you know, lockdown fatigue and, you know, just change in a lot of people's lifestyles. So I was feeling a little, let's say, depleted last week. So I took a break, but I'm back and we're going to build out some, we're going to see how far we can get in a pipeline. I'm only going to keep it to a couple hours like normal. So we'll see how far we can get in a pipeline. Hopefully this will take us actually a couple weeks to build out so that we can kind of come back and keep working on some things. So that's what we're going to do today. Okay. Let me just make sure. Perfect. So let's start. It's so funny. I had these, hey Payman, I had these great plans. I want to try some other inputs and things like that. And I had these great plans to see if I could hook up a drawing tablet and I could kind of draw out the architecture that we were going to work on. And I just kind of, you know, long weekend and, you know, shit happens and I never got to it. So we are going to wing it. The very first part of our pipeline is going to be our source repository. Now, Payman, I know when I was asking for ideas last week, you had said, how about you build out a pipeline like what you use? And I think it's a great idea. I just didn't have enough time to prepare for that one. So we're gonna start here AWS native, and we're gonna build out CodeCommit, CodePipeline, and I will figure out what it is we'll use for deployments. I'm thinking CodeDeploy or something like that, so we can check some code into CodeCommit, watch it walk through the pipeline, and end up on our EC2 instance. So pretty basic stuff, but I think this is where we're going to start. We are working on another project where I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to actually build out a pipeline like we have. You know, how I've been working in GitLab over the last little while, right, on all the demos and everything. I'm going to use the stream as the way to build out the pipeline that we need for a project that we're working on. But as I mentioned, I just haven't had enough time to kind of sit down and figure out exactly what we need. So I figured that we'd just do another demo tonight. Okay. Yeah, Kevin, there's all sorts of different ways to build pipelines, right? So we're going to do kind of an AWS native pipeline using built-in or native services. So CodeCommit, CodePipeline. We'll do, maybe we'll look at code build, but we'll definitely look at CodeDeploy and then we'll push it out. So that's kind of like a native pipeline. We use GitLab most times to do our pipelines, and there's just different tools, different ways that you can stitch all this together. And I'll show you as we get into the actual pipeline piece here, how we can tie in AWS services, how we can tie in to third-party open source services, even SaaS solutions if you wanted. So what's great about this is there is no single right answer for this. It really comes down to what works for you. Okay. So yeah, lots of flexibility here. So why don't we actually, maybe what we could do here, sorry, I've got my keyboard all messed up here. I was out shoveling snow and I didn't realize what time it was, and I'm like, I can't miss 2 weeks in a row. I got to get back up there, so I've been scrambling a little bit. So let's do this, AWS CodePipeline. I want to see if we can find like a little reference diagram or something that we can use. Okay, so we're going to really build out a CI/CD pipeline. Actually, it probably would be better if we did code pipeline reference architecture. So don't worry so much about kind of these pieces here. This is what I'm thinking we build out. Okay. So our source stage one would be CodeCommit. When we check something into this CodeCommit repository, we'll go with code build to maybe run something for us, right? Basically, this would be the equivalent of some sort of CI process. Okay. And then we won't do CloudFormation. We'll deploy something out through CodeDeploy to an Ec2 instance. It's not a great picture. Let's see if we've got something else. Lots of fancy pipelines here. There's one for Docker. Yeah, so sort of here's what we're going to do, right? Developer us checks code in. We basically stitch these pieces together with the pipeline service. So pipeline's monitoring for changes. It sees a change in code commit and it passes that off to the next stage and to the next stage. So we'll build something very similar to this. Okay. The starting point for this is going to be CodeCommit. CodeCommit, if you're not familiar, is essentially a 100% Git compatible managed service in AWS that allows us to store code and basically create a repository on AWS. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. Information about the code to be committed after the repository is created. We're not going to worry about that. We'll give it a description, not required, but we might as well, right? It is required to give it a name. Okay, so we can't allow, in this case, CloudFormation like we've done in the past, to create these for us. So we'll do that. And then tags, we always set tags, there we go. And then triggers, which we won't worry about. So pretty basic template. I stitched together really before I got kind of running tonight. I just grabbed this as our standard kind of framework for our CI scripts. And we'll do, we'll call this, what did I call it here? CodeCommit. Repository, there we go. Yeah, sorry, parameters. And we'll just call this repo 0. CodeCommit repository. Let's grab the description. And then our standard set of tags. I don't think this is any different than what we've seen in the past, yeah. Okay. And we'll set up our regular tags. We'll set the default values for these. And then environment. Pretty simple. Okay, I won't worry about an output right now. The real challenging part of this is going to be stitching all this together in CodeCommit, and sorry, not in CodeCommit, in CodePipeline. And I'll show you kind of how we're going to cheat a little bit, at least to build out the structure of what we need, because there's a lot of moving parts in the pipeline. I think what we'll do is we'll try it straight from the documentation, and if we get too hung up, then we'll build one out manually so we can pull the information out of that and then use that as the basis for building it out. Okay. So this is an easy one, as long as I spelt everything right, which there's really no guarantee. So code commit, I've got this here. We really don't need to pass anything in because we've set a bunch of defaults. So let's commit this. That. And we set this up earlier. There we go. So we've got, as usual, an error. What did I miss? All right. So tonight is no different than any other night. Typos. Try again. All right, that's a little better. And there's our, what am I? Yeah, stack. Sorry, folks, you're gonna have to bear with my brain pauses tonight. Okay, property validation encountered. I love these. Encountered what? It encountered something that we don't know about. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger here. Unsupported, probably. I can't, oh, okay, there we go. We'll unsupport. Oh, look. Tag versus tags. We'll give this a second to delete just to make sure. Okay, and then we'll repush. So, Payman, Kevin, how are things going? Payman, I know, I think relatively close to, you live relatively close to me, I think. So I would suspect that you got a fair amount of snow over the weekend into today. How about you, Kevin? What's the weather like? We've had, man, I bet you we probably got close to 25 to 30 centimeters of snow yesterday. And I think on Saturday, where I am, it snowed almost all day. We probably got another 20 centimeters right there. So in the weekend, we got close to, I don't want to say 40-ish centimeters of snow. So I've had lots of snow removal to do. I don't know about either of you. So this is a pretty painless template, this one. Okay. If you can spell everything right, you're usually pretty good. So if we go code commit, there's our demo repo, the description that we set up, right? Obviously there's no code in here. You had to go out twice, Payment to shovel? Yeah, me too. I shoveled, actually I didn't shovel yesterday because it didn't start here till pretty late. And by the time I was kind of ready to call it a night, I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to go out and shovel. So I left it, and I kind of regretted that in the morning. But anyways, here's our setup, okay? Nothing here right now. It's just an empty repository. We're going to come back later and set up all of our connections. Yeah, you're right, Payman. I've got I don't have a snowblower. I have a little I think they call them an electric snow shovel, and it's not very big. It's, I don't know. Well, you can't see my hands on the screen. It's bigger than this. It'd probably be about, yeah, I don't know, 12, 14 inches wide. It's just electric. You plug it in, and it works really well. Saved my butt today, and it's actually really powerful for what it is. I'm surprised every time I plug it in how far it throws the snow. So that definitely saved me some work this afternoon and earlier today. And then the snowplow goes by, and we are the first house on the street, so we get all of the snow in the end of our driveway. So I'm glad that we had that today as well. It saved my back. Actually, do we want to? I'm just deciding how we want to do this. Do we want to set it up so that we can access this now? And just to get it working? Because I always find this is one of the reasons. Yeah, exactly. All ice. And you know what? Man, I was really lazy the last time we had snow, and the plow came by, and I was like, well, we're not going anywhere anyways. So I didn't clean the end of the driveway out very well. And then it like just froze into a solid block of ice. So I was out there on the weekend. I put a little salt on it, and it broke it up and everything. So I got it all cleaned up. But man, that was a laziness on my part that then made my life hard. Yeah, I don't have that benefit, Kevin. So we're kind of just on a little side street in the subdivision. So it takes a little while for them to get to me. So let's see here. So I don't have to worry about initial configuration for CodeCommit. Install and configure. You know what we could do here? From the list of policies, use AWS CodeCommit Power User. Let's go have a look at that. What does this give us? Essentially everything except, well, it gives us create as well, but does not allow, okay, so we can create repositories, we can take actions on those repositories, but we can't delete the repositories. It's basically what's happening here. I gotta adjust my lights, give me a second. Make them a little brighter. Okay, let's see what's involved in doing this. We're there here. We've got the CLI, so we're going to need permissions. We've obviously got the CLI installed already. We've got it configured already. That's fine. I've got Git installed. From the terminal, use Git to run git config, specify the use of... I'd have to be careful with this because we've got a lot of other things set up, so I wouldn't want to mess with this. We might actually do... This should look very similar except for the SSH setup. Now let's walk through this. Okay, so the first thing we need is we need a group that we're going to put a user in that that will give us this permission set. So let's do that first. Okay, so let me find IAM. And let's create a group. And the group configuration here is going to be really basic. So we'll go here, we'll create another new file, we'll call this IAM. Actually, for our pipeline walk through. Okay. So we're going to create a group. We'll just call it group 0. This might seem like overkill, but one of the things that we want to do here is we want to just kind of form the habit of not assigning permissions directly to an IAM user, right? So what we're going to do is instead we're going to provide permissions at the group level, and then we will make a demo IAM user we're going to create a member of the group, which would give it access to the repo that we created earlier. Okay. We will let CloudFormation create the group. We are going to, or create the group name, sorry. We're going to assign a managed policy ARN to this. And this is going to, we're going to really keep this simple. If you were doing this in your own environment, you'd probably have to add a few extra things to this. But we're going to do this. And we're just going to add that managed policy, which would give us access to the repos. Path policy. So what's the difference between this and this? This is an example of oh geez, I'm having another moment here. This is an inline policy, which means it's embedded directly into the group. Okay, and what that means is if we were to embed a policy in a group and you delete the group, the policy goes with it. This is a managed policy, which means it has its own ARN, Amazon Resource Name. So it exists independently of the resource that it's associated to. In this case, we're going to associate it with the group. That means that if you were to delete the group, the policy that we've referred to here, in this case, it's an AWS managed policy, but it's the same idea. It would continue to exist outside of the deletion of the group, in this case, that we've assigned it to. Okay. I think that's really all we need. We're going to let CloudFormation do this. We assign the policy to it. Okay, we're not going to worry about path. This is a way you can just organize things, but we won't worry about that. And we're not going to do any inline policies. So that's the first thing. And I think that's really all we need here. Yeah, I think that's it. So let's do this. We'll just borrow this. We probably already have, and let's check what we have. I want to make sure that we obviously need to have unique stack names, right? Let's see what we've called IAM in here already. See, we've got an IAM development, which, you know what? What was that called? Deploy for web-based demo. Let's see what's in here. Maybe we'll just clean this one up. There's our managed policy. Oh, this is when we were working with bees with machine guns way back. Let's delete this. Okay. And then this way we can just call this new one IAM development, because we'll blow these up after the fact. Okay. Now we do need to add here capabilities. Okay, that's something specific here. If I'll show you this in the console. Essentially, if you're working in the console in CloudFormation and you deploy templates that have IAM resources in it, there's a little box that pops up. excuse me, there's a little box that pops up that says you have to acknowledge that the stack is going to create IAM resources, a little checkbox. So when you're doing that through the command line, you have to provide the capability statement. And there's a couple different options that you can put in here, but I know based on the way we've built these in the past that we need to add capability IAM, and it should work. All right, so we'll save that, and I think we're good. Let's deploy this one again. All right, so, oh, look at that, delete failed. Why'd that fail? Must attach, oh, I think when we were messing around here, I added something manual to that. Let me just find what resource it's talking about. I think it was role 0. We were testing this, we were adding a policy in manually. No, it's not there. It's role 1. Yeah, this one's here. So I think we added this one manually. So we'll have to delete that. Okay. And we'll try deleting this again. Just see if it cleans up this time. There we go. Now the problem here is that we're going to probably see a failed deployment, because in this case we were trying to do a deployment on the new IAM development stack, but there was a stack called IAM development in place. Oh, we didn't even make it that far. Unrecognized resource types. Look, I forgot. Oh man, one of these days I'm going to write one of these templates on the first shot and it's going to work. I thought it failed because what happens is CloudFormation is performing an action on IAM development, the stack, and then we're trying to update it as that operation is being performed. So that would also have caused it to fail. But it wouldn't have failed here, it would have failed here. Oh, look, I did that backwards. Remember I was saying about the capabilities? These are the other capabilities that you have. So we want to do this. That's what I have. What's the error message? Member must satisfy constraint. Member must satisfy enum value. Capability IAM. Did I just spell that wrong? Capability IAM. This is spelt wrong, right? Oh, that's also, I think it's got to come back there. I don't think that would have caused that error though. Let's test it. I guess maybe that bad tab was messing with the original, with the capabilities here. It's weird. So this one, as long as I didn't spell anything wrong, should go pretty. Oh man. I think that's supposed to be plural. Arns. there's one thing that I can guarantee you'll learn when you watch this stream is how bad of a speller I am. You can guarantee that. For those of you that are normally here, Kevin, Payman, is it just me, or does it feel like the airs are at a higher level than normal? I'm gonna blame it on all the snow shoveling that I'm just exhausted from snow shoveling. And we can redeploy that, because that, actually, let me show you that error, because that's what I expected to see before. See what happened here? I was trying to make a change to a stack, and it was in a state of rollback complete because it had failed and I hadn't deleted it. So I needed to go back and adjust, right? Basically, I had to clean out that stack before I could make the change. So in this case, I think what we can do is just go back into here and deploy it again and see what it does. Okay, easy looking at our change set. In theory, we should just be adding a single group. Always takes longer than you think. There we go. Okay. So if we go over and we have a look at the group that we just created, there it is. Let CloudFormation deal with it. There's no users here yet, and there's our AWS managed policy. So let's talk about these managed policies a bit. These are great. Well, they're great catch-all policies, and for tonight, this is going to work. Now you can see in here, there's a lot of other things that are assigned to this. Like you can see that we can manage our keys, which we need to do. We can create credentials for specific services, things like that. One of the things that I would always say with an AWS managed policy is it's a great starting point. It doesn't mean that you need to leave all of these permissions all of the time, right? One of the challenges that we see a lot of people run into is that you end up using AWS managed policies and they give you this much when you really only need about that. I'm not gonna be able to demonstrate it really well, but one of the things that Amazon has added that's really handy is the Access Advisor. If you create a policy and assign it to a group like this and then put users in that policy, what you can do is you could look at the Access Advisor as a way to kind of fine tune what it is that's in that permissions policy that you've assigned to this, in this case, the group, and see if you actually need it. Okay, so what we would normally do is we would start with this power user and we would create our own customer managed policy off this, because you can't modify an AWS managed policy, and you can tell it's an AWS managed policy because it has this little kind of orange cube assigned to it, right? So this is AWS managed. We would take this as a starting point and create our own managed policy, and then regularly review the Access Advisor. And if we see nobody accessing, service with some specific action, then we could remove it from that policy statement in order to tighten up the permissions and really practice least privilege. Okay, but for tonight, what we're going to do is just to try to make this easy and get it to work. We're going to use the AWS managed policy. Okay, so that's a little bit about that. No users. We're going to create a user, and we're just going to do this manually. Actually, let's do this. CodeCommit demo, and we're going to need access keys. So we're going to create access keys for this user, and we'll we'll create a management console as well, just in case we want to see anything. Okay. Leave all those the same. And now we're going to assign this user to the group that we just created. We could add tags to that user if we wanted. In the demo here, we won't worry about it, but I would definitely suggest that you come up with a tagging strategy. And for anything that is taggable in AWS, make sure you add those tags. And for those of you that have followed along for a while, you know, you would see us do things like this, right? Not really relevant for a user, maybe not, I don't know. But make sure you have that tagging policy and use it. Okay, so we'll review this. We're good here. All right, not that I don't trust all of you, but just give me a second. And I'm gonna grab the key information that I need here, and I'll just dump it somewhere. All right, so I've got everything I need for this user. Okay. If we go back over here to set up our SSH connection, so this is what we've just done. We've created a group, and we've created that user, and we've assigned that user to the group rather than attaching policies directly. This is an example again of what I mentioned before, an embedded policy. Okay, so Amazon would normally say, even though in the documentation they're showing this inline policy, best practice is not to embed things, right? So always use a managed policy, whether it's an AWS managed policy or a customer managed policy. Much more flexible. Okay, so we've got that done. We've already got Git installed. We have to set up our credentials. All right, so this is going to be interesting here. How do I want to do this? I've got a lot of info in my SSH directory that I don't necessarily want to share. So I think what I'm going to do, we're going to go back to this weird just chatting screen, and I'm going to set this up. Okay, so just bear with me again. All right, and I just need to copy something out of the pub key here. So just let me do that. And I'm going to dump that in my cheat sheet again. And we'll close out this window. All right. So what I basically did was just generate my public and private key. And you can see down here, what we're going to do is we're going to take the public key, and we're going to go into the management console, and we're going to set this up. Okay. So let me do. Sorry, folks. I've got so much info in here that I just have to be careful. Give me 1 second. Interesting. It's remembering credentials from somewhere else. All right, so there we go. We're going to log in as that user that we just created, which was, what did we call it? There we go. Okay. All right. And, oh, hold on. That's not going to work the way we want. We'll have to change that. You know where this is going, right? Yeah, there is so many odd things going on tonight. Hold on. Get the password. Hey, Payman. Maybe I shouldn't have taken your advice, man. Just having one of those nights tonight. Do you know why recently the account numbers doesn't get filled in a login page? Well, I think so. You'll notice here, I've typoed here somewhere. We always change. So if you go back here and you go to the dashboard, right? By default, this would be your 12-digit account ID, and that has always concerned me, right? That 12-digit account ID is just there. It's in a URL and everything. So we always change it to something. We just go to, there's like a website that'll generate a couple random words for you. So in this account, we ended up with Sweet Shareholder. But I would suspect that at some point they decided that they didn't want that just out there everywhere. Okay. So one of the things that we always do when we're working in a customer's account is we change this. Okay, obviously we would talk to the customer first, but if we're setting it up, we go through and change all of these right at the very beginning. It's just a really simple little thing you can do to stop some information from leaking out. Okay. So let me go back here. CodeCommit demo, CodeCommit-demo, CodeCommit-demo. It is one of those nights, I think. I've got literally a brand new password that will not work. Give me a sec. I almost wonder if we've got something just messed up in the setup here. Like this should be one of the easier things we do. I'm just going to jam some credentials into here. Give me a second. I wonder if the password is just not working because of, yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on here. If I can't log in here, we're just going to skip by this and I'll come back later and get this to work, and then next session we'll do it. CodeCommit-demo. I think I should have stayed shoveling snow. I was better at shoveling snow than doing this. I don't know why this isn't working. It's very odd. Okay, we're going to skip over that. We're going to keep building. Okay. Let me close down a few of these things. So we've got a user that we can't access for some reason. Not sure why. We've got our CodeCommit repo set up. Okay. What we want to be able to do now is think about CodePipeline. Okay. And what we're really going to do is something kind of along these lines. Okay. If we could get this to work, it'd be great. So they're committing code here. And then what we'll do is we'll get an instance with the CodeDeploy agent running. I just want to see where the pipeline comes in. Create our application. There's our first pipeline. Okay, so let's do this. I think if you remember, we created AMIs in the past when we set up like our web demo and everything. So we're going to create a EC2 instance that we'll use for creating an AMI. Okay, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to pre-install the CodeDeploy agent. Okay, so we'll use, I don't know, a T3 medium, doesn't really matter. We'll put this in, I'm going to put this in a private subnet. I want to use SSM for this, so maybe we'll create an IAM role first. Let's clean a couple of these old ones out of here. So let's put some notes in here because I'm gonna have to remember this for later. So IAM group to allow access to CodeCommit repo. Use role to allow. So if you remember, we set this up once before in the web demo, created a role, we create an instance profile, and then when we associate that role through the instance profile to the EC2 instance, then we can use SSM to manage it. Okay. So we'll get this redone. So the first thing is our assume role policy. Assume role policy document. And there'll be a sample down here. And this is actually what we want. We want to allow the EC2 service to assume this role, so we can just borrow from that. Version and statement need to be lined up. And that should do it for our assume role policy document. Yeah, let's put a description. And we're going to go back and add another. I think we only need one, but we'll add maybe a couple. So there's a couple policies that exist already. This is the old policy for SSM, and you can see over here in the description it will be deprecated. So they tell you the new policy to use. So we're going to use Amazon SSM Managed Instance Core. Okay, so this will give us core functionality for SSM. And I think this is all we're going to need. Let's start with that, and we can always add something later if we need it. Duration, path, permissions, boundaries, policies. We'll let CloudFormation assign the name, and we'll tag it. remember tags are plural. And we'll just borrow again from here. Okay, and we need the same set of parameters that we use everywhere. Dump those there. So there's our role. And remember, we need an instance profile to assign or to associate a role with an EC2 instance. Okay. Not required, so we'll let, I don't even think CloudFormation will do that. Path we don't have to worry about, and we're just going to associate it to the role. So this is the name of the role. We want to look at what gets exported here. So what are the return values? This returns the resource name, so that should be fine. So we'll do ref role 0. And remember the depends on attribute that we've used a couple times. We'll do the same here. Right? So the instance profile depends on role 0, which means the role will be created. Role 0 will be created before the profile. The group shouldn't change. Anybody want to hazard that I have a spelling mistake? Parameters environment allowed values too. Null values are not allowed in the template. Did I just, oh. Feels like a battle tonight. Perfect. So we'll cancel this for now. Go over to CloudFormation, and we should have an update, new change set for this. There's our role, there is our instance profile. Let's see if that will deploy for us. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Just have one of those days every once in a while, right? Where everything seems like a bit of a battle. I'm gonna blame it on what I mentioned before. I don't know if I can blame it on brain freeze anymore. I have been inside for quite a while, so I'm warmed up. But I'm gonna blame it on what we talked about at the very beginning of the stream. This idea of feeling depleted, just concentration issues right now. Come on. I always start getting nervous when these templates take a while. So private subnet. Yeah, that role isn't there yet. Oh, that's it right there. Okay. We deleted the exit demo stuff. That is the one that we want. Don't know why this is taking a while. Let's see what happens. Let's just try it. Okay, so we've got the role, which should allow us to use SSM. Okay, and that's why I can put this in the private subnet and still get remote access to it. We're going to just open an SSM session. We're really not going to change anything here. Do we want another volume? I think for the demo, no. Okay. I'm going to create a, we'll create this in code later, but we'll just say AMI, let's just do this, AMI builder. Okay. We really don't need anything for this. We'll say, because we're really not even going to use SSH, assuming that our instance profile actually created. There it goes. Okay, so that's good. This machine will come to life, and I think what we'll do is we'll do a really simple demo. We'll put CodeDeploy on it, and we'll put, maybe we just go back to our kind of go-to example. We'll dump Apache on it really quickly, and that way we can, in our CodeDeploy, what we'll do is we'll just create an index file. Or sorry, in our CodeCommit, we'll create an index file. We can change that index file, which would push out to the machine. Simple, at least demonstrate that the pipeline's working. Okay, we'll let that come to life. Give it a few minutes. Sometimes I find that these will start pretty quick. All right. We are in. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to install the CodeDeploy agent. So here's what we've got. We'll do these first couple. Actually, you can't run them just like this because this is, they're showing us in a user data field. That would have been okay. We could have bootstrapped it from the user data field. I don't normally do the user data field. I don't find the user data, this is basically a script that would run the first time the machine comes to life. It's a valid use case. It's an easy way to bootstrap a machine. I tend to find though that it doesn't scale very well. So we're gonna actually just kind of do these instead. So we'll do sudo yum. Okay, do our update. That's easy. Install Ruby. We want the AWS CLI. That should be installed here already because we're using an AWS provided AWS Linux 2, so that's fine. That's good. We're good to go there. Okay, we can't do that because we don't have that. Well, we have that user. Is there any reason why we would want to? Let's do this. And the fun continues. I don't see why this would make a difference, but let's try it. Might be a policy that we have to add here. See this here? Yeah, see this? There's another managed policy. Search for that. Okay, so let's go over here. Look at that. Did we get kicked out again? Okay, no, that's there. So what we're going to do is the same thing we did before to find the instance profile. Okay, so see, this is interesting here. This is a managed policy that provides limited access to an S3 bucket to download a revision. So this is basically allowing you access to CodeDeploy. Let's see the difference here. What's this one doing? See the difference? This is allowing us to run get object versions again, and list bucket against any resource. In this, same services and actions, but allowing it only for CodeDeploy. So let's try this, because I like this one, and the fact that the idea of least privilege, right? So what we need to do is we need to go back here, and we need to add that to our list of managed policies. There we go. And I just noticed we have a bunch of new users in chat. So welcome everybody to chat. I apologize that I didn't see anybody join. I haven't bothered to set up any notifications or anything like that in my Streamlabs setup. So welcome to the stream, folks. I appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us for a bit. What am I doing here? I keep hitting refresh instead of execute. Okay, Payman, so what we're doing here is we're giving the EC2 instance the ability to access an S3 bucket that has the CodeDeploy agent in it to pull the agent down and install it, okay? So we're not using S3 as our repo. We're basically going out to an S3 bucket that Amazon provides to install the agent, okay? So let's see if that changes the outcome of this. It usually will happen pretty quickly. Not quite yet. We'll give it a second. Let's actually, the way the night's going, let's make sure that I did what I thought I did. So we can go here, select our AMI builder, and we can find the role, which is here. And we should see those two profiles, right? The two managed profiles. And this is the one that is giving us the ability to run get objects against anything with an S3 bucket, or S3 bucket that has CodeDeploy in it. Still not working. Okay, hang on. When all else fails, we will actually look at the real documentation here and just see what we're missing. Okay, we've got that. See, so this is a little different. Okay, this is the deploy role. We're really looking for installation. Okay, let's try this actually, because we've got Systems Manager installed. So we can use SSM to deploy the agent for us. Prereqs. Follow the steps in getting started with CodeDeploy to set up IAM and permissions. Let's have a look here. Create a service role for CodeDeploy. This is what we just looked at. This is our trust policy for our role. We've got that set up already. They're using the generic, basically allow gets and lists to all S3 services. And you can see here that they recommend restricting that. So that policy looks a little different than this, doesn't it? Make sure to give access to S3 buckets that contain the CodeDeploy agent, otherwise an error might occur when CodeDeploy agent is installed or updated. To grant the permissions. Okay, so let's try something a little different here. We're going to go back over here. And just because we talked about AWS managed policies and customer managed policies, let's do this. Let's do CI/CD pipeline demo. Okay, so we'll just call this profile 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little snippet and we're going to make our own custom policy out of this. Okay, description. We'll let it name it automatically. Won't worry about path, the policy document. And we see an example down here. Looks very similar to the document we created already. So versions 2012, 1017. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take these. So action is S3 get star, S3 list star. I think they had, right? Get and list. Okay. And in this case, we want to limit this. So we're going to copy this for now. Actually, we'll copy this one. Okay, but we're going to change this up a bit. We're going to use the Amazon sub command. Actually, we don't even have to. Well, we could jam it in right here. And we could say, okay, so what we're doing here is we're using the substitute command. It's basically a built-in function in CloudFormation, and it'll substitute this. This is called this is a pseudo parameter. So when CloudFormation runs this, it will take this pseudo parameter and substitute in AWS region, in our case CA Central 1. So we'll end up with, it should look like that. Okay, because this is the name of the region. So it'll just substitute that for us. And you know, why are we doing that? One of the things that you could do is, you know, I'm not sure, somebody takes this template and they run it in a different region. If I hard coded that to CA Central 1, then their deployment command to install the agent might not actually work, okay, if they're looking at a local bucket. So that's really the only reason we're doing that. Now we're going to change this a bit, and we're going to say depends on profile 0, because we want to make sure this profile exists before creating the role. And I know the role already exists, but again, if I delete this template and then delete the stack and I want to recreate it, I want to make sure that this profile exists. And now I'm going to remove that one, and we're going to say profile 0. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else in here that we need. Path, there's our policy document. The role, we're not going to do that. We're going to assign it at the role level. Don't have to worry about users. I think we're good. Let's try that. All right, so we're adding our new profile, we're modifying the existing role, and we don't have to replace it. All right? Change sets are really great for this. You know exactly what's going to happen. Okay, so there's our managed profile coming to life. Or sorry, our managed policy. I'm reading the screen. Okay. And our role should update here. So if we go back and we refresh this now. Let's go here. All right, AWS managed. Now you can see we don't have the little logo there anymore, and we've got a bare bones policy that's allowing us access to that bucket. Okay. AWS CodeDeploy CA Central 1, latest, install, download failed, permission denied. Oh, for whatever reason, when you log in with SSM, SSM dumps you in the home directory user bin instead of going to home SSM user. I'm to be honest, I'm not quite sure why. So this means that we have access to the bucket now, but we couldn't write the file into user bin, which makes a lot of sense. So if we just go here, do it again, there we go. So there's our install file. Progress. Slow progress, but progress nonetheless. Okay. Got that set up. Instance profile. I think all we have to do now is do change mod plus X install. Oh, it wants something extra on the end. It was in one of these pages we had opened, right? I know we were going to go that way, but we kind of did it in half-assed. So we got this, we got this. Get change mode. Okay, auto. All right. So now we've got code deployed installed. We want to also just set this up for doing a really simple Apache demo later, and Amazon actually has, I always refer to this documentation because it's just an easy way to remember the commands that I want to install. Like I don't want to install all of this. We're just gonna do Apache. Okay, I can never remember the package names, so this is just the easy way to do it. Okay. Oh, we're on Linux too, so the package names have changed. AWS Linux 2. it's just HTTP. I keep doing that because it's here. All right, so Apache's installed, and then I just want to do these couple steps so that we make sure Apache is running, and that when we stop and start this instance later, Apache will be started for us. Okay, so we've got the CodeDeploy agent installed now, and now we've got our simple Apache web server. That's really all we need this instance for. So if we go back here, I'm just going to stop it. Okay. And we're just going to create an AMI off of this. You don't really have to do this. When you create the AMI, it will actually ask you if you want to stop it. Old habits die hard. So this is just kind of the way that I've always done it. Close that down now. All right, so if we're waiting for that, you can see we kind of skipped around here a little bit because we had so much problem with the CodeCommit user. I'll fix that off stream, and we'll come back and test that out next time. We've got our EC2 instance now. We've got the CodeDeploy agent installed. Still stopping. Okay. Done all this. We'll set up our application in CodeDeploy next. Wow, it's taking a long time to stop. Well, while we're waiting for that, let's go over here. Find CodeDeploy. Okay, and what we want to do is create a couple different resources here. We want to create our application, and we're going to create a deployment config and a deployment group. Okay, so you can see not much really to the process of creating an application in CodeDeploy. You can see that's what we're doing right here. Okay. Now this looks like another change that we'll have to make. So actually, let's do this first. Select the trusted entity, CodeDeploy. Sorry, I'm having a hard time. Select type of trusted entity, select AWS service, choose a use case, select CodeDeploy, and permissions. The AWS CodeDeploy manage policy is already attached to the role. Okay, I think I understand what they're saying there. So we got to go back into here. Okay, and in this case we want to change that to, I think it's just CodeDeploy. The easy way to check that is if you go back over to IAM and you kind of just follow along the instructions that they said. So we'll go here, we'll create a role, okay? And they said common use cases. So we've scrolled down here, find CodeDeploy, select our use case there, go to permissions. That's fine. We won't. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we need this actually, because we need the ARN off of that. Okay, so we'll grab that. Okay. ARNs is plural, and then just like we've done, we'll tag it. Now what I wanted to show you was if we just say tags review, we're gonna blow this away immediately. We'll create a role. Let's delete this old one. Might as well clean up the demo account as we work, right? So right there is the service. So this is the trust relationship. That is what you're defining right here. So what we're saying is allow the code deploy service to assume this role. And this role then has this managed policy, the code deploy role. Okay. So add IAM role for code deploy. Push that. The right window would be good. It's going to update this stack. There's our new role. Okay, so let's deploy that. And now we can look at this code deploy application. So give it a name. Is it even required? No. We'll assign a name in this case. And the platform, we have decided the compute platform code deploy, ECS for Docker, Lambda or server. I don't even think we need this. We're using EC2 instances. We'll try it and see what it does. Okay. So let's go over here. And we're going to create a new, we'll call this just code deploy, I guess. Code deploy application. Proper. There we go. Compute platform, it says we don't need, so we'll leave that alone. Okay. All right. Pretty basic. Let's see if we manage to get everything installed here. Pour that. There it is. So this change set should be really simple again. Just add the application. Okay, that's an easy one. So if we go over here and we go to deploy. There's our application, okay? Nothing here yet. We got to create our deployment groups and all that kind of good stuff, but we have that application defined. So if we keep walking through this, create the application, that's fine. And then we need the deployment group. And essentially the deployment group is the target. Like, what do we want? Like, where are we going to deploy this? There's a couple different ways to do this. You can do it from tags. We can also do it with auto-scaling groups. In our case, I think what we'll do is we will create this just through a tag, okay? Because again, it's a simple deployment. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go, yeah, okay, we can go to CodeDeploy, and we'll grab the doc for that. Okay, so we need our deployment group. And we'll just call this deployment 0. Actually, no, let's call this group 0. And it's a deployment group. Okay, any CloudWatch alarms is associated with the deployment group. We won't worry about that. The application name, so in this case, we need to refer to the CodeDeploy application. So we'll say application name, and we'll use the ref command to look at app0. And like we always do, even though we're deploying this in stages, we'll say this, right? Just for next time to make sure we can control the order of this. Okay, so there's that. All right, so we've got auto rollback configuration, information about the auto rollback configuration that's associated with the deployment group. Let's have a look at what's here. Enabled, true or false, and then the events. Let's put this in. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go grab that. We'll say enabled is true, and then I didn't spell that right. Okay, and then we've got the events that will trigger the rollback. In this case, we're just going to say, we'll just do deployment failure just to demonstrate it. Okay, and we've got to put the dash in front. Okay. If you specify this property, don't specify the deployment property. Okay. Auto scaling groups. So this is what I was mentioning before. Tags to define your deployment group or auto scaling groups. In our case, I think we'll just have that single EC2 instance that we haven't actually deployed yet. We've just got we don't even have the machine image because it was still stopping. Regardless, we're going to keep it simple for now, and we'll just do, maybe for version 1 of the demo, we'll just use tags. Okay. Deployment, we already know that we don't need. Our deployment config name. A deployment configuration name or a predefined configuration name. With predefined configurations, you can deploy application revisions to one instance at a time, half of the instance, or all of the instances. Not required, so we'll leave it. Deployment config name. No, actually, you know what? This is confusing because that's the name of the group. This is the name of the configuration that we want to use for the deployment. And this is just a string. So in our case, let's just use one at a time. Okay, so what this means is as we build this out, maybe we'll build a small fleet of machines. And this means that when we see a change in the revision of our code, we will deploy to the EC2 instances one at a time. And if any of those deployments were to fail, we would invoke the auto rollback configuration at this point. Okay, so one at a time in the fleet. We're only going to have one machine to start, but we'll build it out. This is where I don't want to give it a name. Let CloudFormation generate the name for it. Our deployment style, maybe we'll come back and do a blue-green deployment later, but for now, we'll leave this blank. And this is what we need. We need the tag filters. And this is where this can be a little tricky. So let's just read through these. So the first option is Ec2 Tag Filters. The Ec2 tags that are already applied to your Ec2 instance that you want to include in a deployment group. CodeDeploy includes all of the Ec2 instances identified by any of the tags you specified. Duplicates are not allowed. We can use tag filters or a tag set. Now, a tag set gives us the ability to use groups of tags, okay? And this is, you know, we have seen some folks run into problems here. Use Ec2 tag filters, and let's say you create something that says the project is my project and the environment is development. If you use tag filters, that would actually just match everything that has either of those tags. So if you had, what did I say, environment is development and project is my project, those would all be targets for that deployment. Okay? Because you can see here, CodeDeploy includes all of the instances identified by any of the tags you specify, versus a tag set where it has to be identified by all the tag groups that you create. Okay. Now, our deployment is really going to be simple, but I think we're going to use tag set because I think it's a good habit if you're using a deployment group that isn't based off of something like an auto-scaling group. I think this is a safer way to do it. Okay, so we're going to create a tag set. This guy right here. I don't know why I did that. I just wanted to copy and paste, and now we got to go in here. Okay, now we need Ec2 tag set list. And now we're going to create a list of all of the objects. You can see this gets a little deep. Okay. And then here is where we're actually going to set this up. So we're going to say key is, let's say project. Okay. The type is, let's make sure we're doing this right. Value only. And then the value is, we'll just call this demo project. Okay. Now I know our tag group is pretty simple, but you could do this. Key, am I doing this right? Let me just see. The tag filter key, yeah, I think this is right. So we could say environment type value only, and then the value is, I think we've used development a couple times, right, as our standard. So now what we're saying is we have to match all of these tags. So our target group for this deployment is a tag group set. Project is equal to demo project and environment is development. Okay, match all the tags. Go back 42 layers. Information about the load balancer. Again, we're just going to start with a single instance to get this working. We won't worry about this, but in a lot of cases, you would have a load balancer as the real entry point for that application. Okay. We don't have on-premise tag filters here because we're using EC2. Don't have to worry about that. This is what we created earlier on. This is the role that we want CodeDeploy to assume in order to perform the work on our behalf. Okay, so service role. And we're going to go back to the old fn import value. And that's all I can remember. So let's pull this up because I always have to look it up. And this is what we're going to go after. I think we can just do this. Okay. And we're going to call this IAM stack. And we're going to have to make a change. in that IAM stack. We need to put an export in there. Okay, so we're going to call this deploy ARN. Okay, so this is how we're going to refer to the Amazon resource name that was defined in our IAM template right here. That's this role. But we don't have any outputs here, so we're going to add this output. Role1 value is get attribute role1.arn, and then we're going to give it a name. Whoops. And what did we call it? I already forget. Deploy ARN. Okay, let me just check this. So if we go back here, find IAM again. I just want to look at the return values. So if we do this, it gives us the resource name. Don't want the resource name, we want the ARN. So we're going to use get attributes and ARN. So we're good. Okay. Create the export here in the output section of the template, and then you can refer to it using the import value, another intrinsic function, the import value to go and get it. And now we got to find CodeDeploy again. Service, trigger. Information about triggers associated with the deployment group, duplicates are not allowed, not required. So let's leave that alone as well. We'll keep this as simple as we can to get started. Okay. So I think that's it. That's a lot of typing and tabs. I'm really quite confident that I probably messed that up somewhere. So let's see. All right. Invalid resource depends. Depends on. Those are the kinds of typos that just make me wonder sometimes. Like, I spend probably 3/4 of a day. Like, if I think about my typical work week, I would bet you I would spend, on average, half of my work week to 3/4 of my work week writing CloudFormation templates. And we use depends on all the time. And it often makes me wonder how I can be typing away and just, you know, make up my own commands as I type. Very odd. Got something else wrong. Let's see what else we got wrong in here. Oh, yeah, okay. So this here, we need to define. So yeah, that's an obvious overlook on my part. So I have to say IAM stack, okay? And what we'll do is in GitLab here, we're gonna say IAM stack, whoops, is, what did we call it up here? Just IAM environment, right? And then we have to do -- parameter overrides IAM stack equals IAM stack, okay? So what's happening there is it just doesn't have enough information to actually fulfill that import command to know where to go and look. Well, it didn't fail immediately. Spelling mistake. And my mom would be horrified that I can't spell basic words. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say my mom, but my grade 12 English teacher would just be shocked at my ability to misspell things. My mom would probably not be surprised. There's our change set. There's our deployment group. Okay, adding it because it's not defined. Let's see if I spelt everything incorrectly. There we go. No export. Oh, my fault again. We didn't have those outputs defined before, right? So actually what I needed to do, there's a change set here. It will actually look like there's no changes. I really wish, this is kind of on my AWS wish list, that Amazon would show changes to outputs in a CloudFormation change set. So you have to kind of know that you expect this. This looks like there's an empty change set, but when I execute this, all it's doing is creating that export. It's defining the output section and then creating the export that we mentioned already. Okay. Hey, Tookie. First off, it's a great name. Welcome. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. I'm watching my little mini feed here. That's why I keep looking over this way, watching my mini feed, because I don't have any of my notifications set up. So thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome to the channel. So what we'll see now, here is that output that we need. Okay, this is the ARN that identifies the service role that we want, and there's the export. Until I clicked that change set, hey Tookie, until I executed that change set, this export didn't exist. So that's why this failed. Okay. What we're going to do is we can just go back here and rerun that, and it will generate another change set for us. And in this case, doesn't guarantee that it's going to work, but it won't give us that immediate can't find an export error, or it shouldn't. Keys must be provided for value only filters. Okay, I've got something messed up in our tag set. It didn't feel right when I was doing that. Okay, so let's have a look at the documentation. There might be an example at the bottom here. Yeah, so see what we should do here? Key and value. I'm taking it as the key value setup that we've done a bunch of times in the parameters. And this is another thing that's interesting in a lot of these AWS services. Some of them a lot of them just have slightly different ways they implement things. So this would have been a good example to go and have a look at before. Okay, and you can see here they're using references here. So we're gonna do something a little different. So we're gonna say key and we're gonna say key and value. So if I'm reading this right, let's actually change the order. That's kind of weird to read. So if we do this, if I'm understanding that documentation, we're saying key and value. So the key is project, the value is demo. Okay, that's the way I'm reading that, but let's see what it does. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Come on. I see the create pending. All right, so let's do this. Remember that EC2 instance that we were waiting on before? It's got to be stopped by now, right? Stopped. So let's go over here, action, image, create an image, and we're just going to call this demo pipeline, and I'll just date stamp it 16/02/21. Where did February go? Has anybody else just, number one, lockdown just means that I really have no clue what day of the week it is anymore. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that. So that's the first challenge that I'm having. I've actually gotten into the habit now where I've got an Echo sitting on my desk here, and I've got it integrated into my calendar, because I'm pretty sure that is the only way that I know where I need to be, is when the Echo wakes up and says, hey, you have a meeting in 10 minutes. So that's the first thing. All the days just seem to blend together. But I'm amazed that we're halfway through February already. Not that I'm really complaining. February has to be, I know, eh? It's the worst. It seems like it never is going to end. And I don't know about any of you, but I have this feeling that 2021 is going to end up feeling very much like 2020. Anybody else having that kind of bad feeling so far? I'm not feeling super confident the way things are going. And I'm not complaining that it's the end of or mid-February at this point, because where I am, and Payman, you know this, where we are, February is usually the absolute worst month. Like it is really, yeah, hopefully not worse. But February is kind of like the real nasty part of winter for us. It usually gets really, really cold. Like we had a couple days last week where it was minus 20 something Celsius. It's cold, windy, feels like winter. So I'll be glad when this month is over. Yeah, you're right, Kevin. It does have that feel to it, doesn't it? You can see all the, let's just clean these up. We don't need these anymore. I keep thinking to myself that I should write a Lambda function in this demo account, because the demo account really should be, well, it's for demos, right? And what happens is when I finish the stream, I go into CloudFormation and click, hit a bunch of deletes and wander away, start talking to my wife, and watch some X-Files or something like that on Prime, and I don't come back, and I forget about it. And I keep meaning to write a script that says, okay, run this Lambda function every night at midnight, and remove all the AMIs, right? Or delete all the stacks, just to keep this account cleaner. That maybe that's a future stream that we could do. Tuki, is it warm where you are? Give me the temperature of where you are right now, just so I can feel bad. Okay, so that's going. We should have a stack here to update now. Let's see if this group gets created. Oh, wow. That was really fast. I wasn't expecting it to go that fast. So let's go back over to CodeDeploy. And we can find our applications. There's our application. Okay, there's our deployment group that we've configured now. Okay, you can see that the deployment group has never executed, and our target is, the key is environment, is development. The project, which we haven't set yet, is demo project. Okay, so that's good. 13, but it's 1:55 a.m. Wow. Well, thanks for joining us in the middle of the night. Good for you. That's awesome. 13 degrees Celsius. Yeah, I'm looking at the Echo right here. It is 9 p.m. where I am, and it is minus 10 degrees Celsius. Hey, YY, yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. CloudFormation is kind of I don't know if you were in the stream a little earlier, but I spend 50%, 75% of my work week writing CloudFormation templates. So yeah, we just decided to start doing this on Twitch and see what happens. So thanks for the follow. Welcome to the channel. All right, so we've got our application. We've got our deployment group. Okay, so if we go back here and drill through this, okay, no deployments. There's our deployment group. No revisions at this point. Okay, so let's see if we look at this tutorial. We've got this, and now we need our pipeline. Okay, and you know, we've been at it almost for 2 hours. And for those of you that have been here for the beginning of the stream, you know how much this has just been a struggle for me tonight. My brain is, let's say, frozen, like we were talking about earlier on, brain freeze. So I think this, yeah, I think I'm going to call it here for the night, and we will pick this back up. So for those of you that are new to the channel, the way that we usually do this is Tuesday night is CloudFormation. Thursday night is usually some type of game. Right now I'm into Vintage Story. So we'll come back on Thursday, do some gaming, and we'll come back to this on Tuesday of next week and finish out our pipeline. Okay? So thank you everybody for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it. As always, it's a lot of fun. If you want to come and watch some gaming, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, I'll be back. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and we'll see everybody back on Tuesday to finish out the pipeline. Okay? Thanks, folks.